Ladies and gentlemen, can you please take your seats? We are on the cusp of a quorum, so please take your seats so we can get started.
Councilmember, we're ready to begin.
All right.
I received a letter dated January 31st, 2023. Dear Madam Clerk, pursuant to my authority in section 3-1075 of the Home Rule Charter of the City of New Orleans, there will be a special city council meeting on March 8, 2023 at 10 a.m. The meeting will be dedicated to appeal of the removal of Commissioner Sharon Jasper from the Housing Authority of New Orleans, Hano, per LARS 537, and other matters that may properly come before the council. Please make the necessary arrangements to have this special meeting cable cast live on Government Access Television Channel and tape for recasting in the future. Sincerely, J.P. Morrell, New Orleans City Council President. Roll call, Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Green, Councilmember Morrell,
Present.
Councilmember Moreno,
Present.
Councilmember King, Councilmember Harris, Councilmember Jeruso.
Here.
We have 5 members. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Just before we get started, I want to kind of go over a run of show so everyone who's following understands what's going to occur today. This is a second hearing over an issue that was previously appealed. In the interest of giving everyone fair time and equitable opportunities, the run of show will be each side, both Hano and its representatives, as well as Ms. Jasper, will be given 15 minutes each to present. Hano to present their case, Ms. Jasper to present rebuttal, and there'll be a 15-minute period for public comment, should there be any. At the end of both that presentation, rebuttal, and public comment, the council at that time will vote. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware. If you have evidence, testimony, videos, the like, that is not outside of your 15-minute cap. So that is the time you have to make your case. And that's want everyone to know upfront that is what is expected of you. So that being said, whenever
We have a communication from Sharon Jasper, Hano Board of Commission, requesting a hearing to appeal her dismissal from the Housing Authority of New Orleans Board of Commissioners per the Louisiana Revised Statute 40-537. Then we also have the reinstatement hearing for the Hano Commissioner, Sharon Jasper.
All right, thank you. So at this time, as the mayor's office was the one to request that Ms. Jasper be removed, I believe it is appropriate for the mayor's office as well as any Hano representatives to collaboratively come up and present their case when they're ready. Also, a bit of housekeeping before Adam comes over here and reminds me, pursuant to the hearing and the rules regarding the hearing, any testimony given at this time will be considered to be under oath. So both from the proponents and opposition, just so you're aware, as you come to the table, everyone is under oath. And as far as those individuals who would like to present public comment by signing the yellow cards in the back, you are also under oath. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Turner.
Good morning, council members, and thank you for your time. And so, as everyone knows, we are here today because Ms. Sharon Jasper was removed from the Hano Board of Commissioners, and she appealed that removal. So what's going to happen today is Hano is going to present their case and explain to the council members why Ms. Sharon Jasper's removal should be upheld. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Diane Alexander, who is General Counsel for the Hano Board of Commissioners.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for allowing us to speak to you this morning. The representatives of the Housing Authority of New Orleans are here to explain why it's in the best interest of Hano and its residents that the removal of Sharon Jasper from the Hano Board of Commissioners be upheld. Hano's mission is to provide safe, clean, affordable housing to low and very low income residents of the city of New Orleans. Louisiana Revised Statute 40:537 allows the appointing authority, and in this case, the mayor, to remove a commissioner for neglect of duty, misconduct in office, or conviction of any felony. However, the mayor is not a board member, nor is she involved in the day-to-day operations of Hano and its board. Therefore, it's the responsibility of the board members to ensure that each commissioner upholds the standards expected and act in the best interest of Hano. The Hano Board believes Sharon Jasper was negligent in her duties because she failed to exercise her fiduciary duty of care to be familiar with the agency's finances and participate in financial discussions and decision-making. She failed to regularly attend committee meetings, and she failed to exercise her fiduciary duty of loyalty by refusing to bring resident issues to Hano staff prior to board meetings. The neglect of these duties meant the work of the board was not getting done, the mission of the agency was not fulfilled, and ultimately the residents of New Orleans were not being served. I will now turn it over to Hano Board President Carol Johnson, followed by Executive Director Yvette Hester, who will elaborate further.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Good morning, honorable council members. My name is Carol Johnson, and I am the president of the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of New Orleans. Thank you for having us today. Before us is a difficult task that the Board of Commissioners does not take lightly in requesting the removal of a board member. However, considering Sharon Jasper's behavior and not performing her duties as a tenant advocate, we felt we had no other choice but to move in this direction so that the Board of Commissioners can move forward with the business of providing more decent, safe, and sanitary housing when this city is facing a critical affordable housing shortage. On October 25th, 2022, the Board of Commissioners met to award 177 affordable housing units for the elderly and low-income citizens. However, that decision was delayed due to the chaos ensued by Sharon Jasper. This meeting was the breaking point whereby the Board of Commissioners had enough of disruptions by Sharon Jasper and decided that we must act, as Ms. Jasper's behavior was now impeding the board's ability to perform our duties. Prior to the meeting, I received a call from the executive director to inform me to be prepared for a very contentious board meeting, as the employees had informed that Ms. Jasper had something planned and many tenants would be attending the meeting. Upon arrival to the meeting, the boardroom was packed and you could feel the tension in the air. Immediately, issues arose. The first row on one side of the boardroom was reserved for the developers who were presenting to the Board of Commissioners for approval to proceed with the construction of 177 units of affordable housing. Their displays were placed. However, the tenants began to occupy the seats, of which the staff informed the tenants that the seats were reserved for the presentations. Ms. Jasper then informed the tenants that they did not have to move, as no one was above them. So the developers had to move their materials and sit in a different location. As the meeting progressed, Ms. Jasper provided the reports for the tenants advocate, and she began to speak about how the executive director, the Board of Commissioners, and the staff was not providing services for the tenants, but only she could fix their problems. Sharon Jasper then proceeded to pull a stunt by pulling out a very large chain and stated that they have been locked out, but today she was unlocking those chains, symbolizing that the tenants were in prison. This enraged the tenants. Ms. Jasper went on to state that the Housing Authority was stopping her ability to form a housing council made up of tenants, which was totally untrue. Ms. Jasper was provided the necessary means to form a housing council. However, she did not want to set up according to HUD rules. When it came to the comment period, the tenants was enraged in addressing the Board of Commissioners and the executive director. One tenant had to be removed due to her behavior by the Hano police. The meeting became so disruptive that the board had to call a recess to calm the tenants down. After resuming the meeting, one gentleman said in his comments that he was informed that this was a meeting for Columbia Park tenants. However, after attending this meeting, he realized that this was a board meeting to deal with the business of the Housing Authority of New Orleans. I inquired how he was informed about the meeting, and before he could answer, the audience screamed out that Ms. Jasper informed them to attend the meeting. Ms. Jasper has refused to abide by the administrative process put in place by the Housing Authority to address tenant problems. Ms. Jasper has taken part in training to educate what her responsibilities are as a tenant advocate and Board of Commissioner. I personally have spent time with Ms. Jasper to provide continuing education of what her responsibilities are. Ms. Jasper has intentionally ignored all the instructions as it pertains to the process of the responsibility of a Board of Commissioner and tenant advocate. Ms. Jasper is not fully engaged in her role as a commissioner for setting aside time to review financial documents, reading materials, to participate in discussions, and to stay on topics being discussed and supporting the mission of the agency. Instead, Sharon Jasper has made comments disrespecting the executive director and the Board of Commissioners, citing that we are not doing enough when in fact we're doing everything that is allowed. However, Sharon Jasper does not fully grasp nor understand the role of the Housing Authority of New Orleans and the role of private landlords. Ms. Jasper has not taken the required ethics trainings for the years of 2019 and 2022 as required of a board member. Ms. Jasper does not participate in committee meetings nor read her board materials that is a requirement for discussion at the board meetings. Ms. Jasper has stated that she does not have a full understanding of the workings of the Housing Choice Voucher Program, as well as the project-based voucher program, of which she should have a full understanding as a tenant advocate. The Board of Commissioners provided a letter to the mayor signed by 7 of the 9 commissioners stating that Ms. Jasper was unfit to serve. One commissioner who served the longest period with Ms. Jasper did not sign the letter as she wished to address the issue herself. However, requesting the removal of Sharon Jasper from the Board of Commissioners. So today, we are requesting that Sharon Jasper should not be reinstated to the Board of Commissioners, as we have much work to do and cannot afford the distractions. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our side of the story. I'm Yvette Hester, the Executive Director for the Housing Authority of New Orleans. I've been here a little over 3.5 years. And I've had the occasion to meet with Ms. Jasper and her resident council on many occasions. Most of you know that the Housing Authority is the largest affordable housing provider in the city of New Orleans and the state of Louisiana. We provide housing to roughly 23,000 families in this city. We provide either a roof over their heads or a rental subsidy so that they can rent in the private market. We represent a great portion of the population in New Orleans. And may I add that since 1999, we have provided assistance so that our participants can be homeowners in this city. Now, Ms. Jasper began her tenure with the Housing Authority in 2018. And shortly thereafter, she attended a board retreat. And at that board retreat, she was told about the role and responsibilities of a board member. She was also told that when the Housing Authority was in receivership from 1996 to 2014, that part of the reason it was in receivership was because the board members interfered with the day-to-day operations or engaged inappropriately and did not understand their role as a board member. Even the HUD guidebook for board members state that a board member must support and advocate for the Housing Authority. Ms. Jasper has done neither. You heard the General Counsel in her opening statement stating why Ms. Jasper should not be reinstated to the board. You also heard from the board president who stated that Ms. Jasper should not be reinstated to the Hanover Board of Commissioners. Ms. Johnson stated that 7 of the remaining 8 members of the board all agreed that she was not fit to serve the Hanover Board of Commissioners. And Ms. Johnson provided you with reasons. But that October 26th meeting, which was like our mini January the 6th, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Ms. Jasper routinely vilified staff and meetings. She degraded her own colleagues who sit on the board by stating that they were not qualified to serve on the Hanover Board of Commissioners. She would bring up personal information, health information about our participants. And when she was warned by the president of the board to not do that, she continued. She disregarded the leadership of the board, the Hanover Board of Commissioners. The mini January 6th event crescendoed, as Ms. Johnson stated, when Ms. Jasper took from the dais a big chain and had a call to action in the audience. This set off a firestorm. You had to be there to understand it. If you saw the January 6th insurrectionists, it was similar to that. People were in the audience threatening staff, threatening board members, pointing staff out. Our staff members had to be escorted to their cars after the meeting. Board members had to be escorted to their cars after the board meeting. As in fact, one of our staff members reported that she was followed. Now, Ms. Jasper was placed on a board because of her years of experience being an advocate, a housing advocate. However, her performance on the board has been less than stellar. She was placed on a committee called the Asset and Operations and Real Estate Committee, and then later the Asset and Operations Committee. And the functions of that committee is to review policies and procedures that affect tenants. Ms. Jasper rarely attended those meetings. The Real Estate Committee that she was on, she didn't attend those meetings. She was absent more than she was present. Even the Board of Commissioners meetings, she was absent more than she was present. To address the tenant complaints that Ms. Jasper would bring to the board members, and we noticed that the last 6 months of her tenure, we saw an escalation of complaints. Now, we don't know why it started to escalate. I have my reasons, but I won't state it here. But to try to help residents address their concerns in an expeditious manner, as opposed to waiting to come to a board meeting and explain to us, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong in my unit, or the landlord's doing this or that. We set up a meeting for Ms. Jasper so that she can come to us, so that she can tell us what complaints she's received, so we can expedite the solution to those complaints. When the staff met with her to ask her, okay, Ms. Jasper, do you have complaints? She told them,
Ma'am, your time is up.
I'm not going to share them with you. You find out for yourself.
Thank you.
Council, I just want to say that the outcome of this hearing will determine how and whether we're able to serve the public adequately or be distracted with a bunch of nonsense that has been pledged against this housing authority. Thank you so much for your.
Thank you. Mr. Druso.
I guess I have a few questions. First, sort of more procedural than anything else. When does Ms. Jasper's term expire?
Her term expires January 15th. I'm sorry, July 15th to 2003. 23.
2023.
I'm sorry, guys.
So her term expires in 4 months.
Yes.
Okay. What exhibits is Hano relying on today in support of their case and have been submitted? I just want to make sure that we have all of the exhibits. No exhibits? All right.
No, we
That's
do have,
inaccurate.
we
I'm
do
sorry.
have exhibits.
Yes.
Okay, but you referenced a number of things in your presentation. And so what I'm trying to determine is of the things that were referenced, what are in the exhibits? For example, is the policy manual that Hano has and the HUD manual part of your exhibit list?
The exhibits that were submitted by Hano were the president's letter,
Right,
the board's letter,
right,
the letter from the mayor,
right,
um, statements from Hano staff members,
yes,
and I believe there was some audio recordings as well.
okay. But in fairness, when we talk about board policies, procedures, and again, I'm not challenging the veracity of what you say, but those are not part of the record right now.
The board policies were not submitted as part of the record.
Okay. I've heard reference to Louisiana Revised Statute 4035-7, and that Ms. Jasper's charges are based on neglect of duty and misconduct in office. And I appreciate the presentation that's been made today. Is there any case law that supports the position of Hano today?
We have not provided case law.
Okay. Are there any letters as part of the evidence that have been submitted counseling Ms. Jasper on her conduct before the president's letter and the mayor's letter that are the exhibits received?
As the president of the board, I did not write a letter. I sit down with Ms. Jasper to counsel her verbally. I thought that would be a better outcome. Personally, had her over at my office and we sit down and spoke about things and had many telephone calls and even visits to property.
And look, that is, let me be very clear. Testimonial conversations are a part of evidence, but also documents are a part of evidence too. So I just want to make sure there aren't any letters from 2018, 2019, 2020, or 2021, 2022, before the president's letter that was sent, counseling her or advising her about her conduct.
Look.
Am I correct about that?
You are correct.
Guess we'll see.
Okay. You mentioned policies and procedures today and attendance. Is it Hano's position that all members are in complete compliance with their meeting attendance, committee meeting attendance, and their preparedness?
Councilman Jeruso, we prepare for this hearing for Ms. Jasper. I don't have any information on other board members.
Yeah, but I think it's a relevant inquiry because if you are injecting into this proceeding the fact that Ms. Jasper does not attend, then I think it's fair for us to look how Hano's applying that and whether that's an even-handed application or one that's directed towards one individual.
Again, we only prepare today's hearing for Ms. Jasper. And so I don't have that information available to you.
Okay,
And if you're asking if it's in the bylaws, no, the attendance records, attendance requirements are not in the bylaws. However, you all sit on the council. If people are not here, I don't think they can adequately serve.
I understand that, but again, I think you're kind of making my point, which is what your argument is, and I understand the argument is if you don't attend, you don't participate, then you may not be following your service. But in fairness, then we have to look at everybody on every board and commission. If somebody is being invoked as being in dereliction of their duties or misconduct in office by not attending. So that should be applied to all board members. I mean, in other words, I'm just telling you, you've now opened the door to everybody being subject to that. Okay.
Councilman Jeruso.
Yes.
Attendance by the Board of Commissioners, we have been pretty good by the Board of Commissioners. However, we've never had a distraction or a behavior issue with the other board members. This is the time that we had to look at everything because of Ms. Jasper's behavior. So all of those things came into play. based on Ms. Jasper's behavior.
I'm gonna ask you, I think a challenging question, which is, one that we all have to deal with. Does she lose her First Amendment rights of speaking as a result of being a board member or commissioner?
Councilman, I would suggest that she doesn't lose her First Amendment rights to speak. However, when she agreed to serve on the board, she also took on some fiduciary duties toward the board. And one of those being that you should be in support of that board and speak in support of the board. And if you have issues with the board, that you should then address them internally or through the proper procedures, as opposed to in the manners that she chose to do so.
And again, I understand you're testifying about that, but those policies, procedures, bylaws are not part of the record the council's received today.
Correct.
Okay, I think that concludes my questioning. Thank you, President Morrell.
Thank you, Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. Ms. Jasper is the resident representative on the board, one of them, is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
Okay. So she also, I'm assuming, has a fiduciary duty to speak on behalf of the residents who she represents. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I just kind of thinking this through, us up here, you mentioned the New Orleans City Council, our potential attendance, things like that. We were elected by the people of the city. So we try to speak on behalf and advocate on behalf of the people of the city. And there are times when I may disagree with another council member, and maybe even not speak positively of the council in general. But I don't think that makes me now an ineffective member of the New Orleans City Council. That just, I'm trying to represent the people. And I think, if Ms. Jasper is a representative for the residents, she should be able to speak on behalf of the residents. Let me talk briefly about the reasons why a commissioner could be removed. There's 3 reasons, as you mentioned. 1, neglect of duty, correct? The other, misconduct in office. The 3rd, conviction of any felony. So we know that number 3 is not applicable. Misconduct in office could be, and Denisha, please correct me if I'm wrong, something like, violating an open meetings law, something like that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Neglect of duty could potentially be excessive absenteeism, which you all say that is a potential issue. But I really want to just also go in on what Councilmember Giarrusso started talking about is about how do we see just what level of absenteeism there really is if you're not providing the records of the other commissioners as well. Do you have Ms. Jasper's records on her attendance?
Not with us today, council member.
Yeah, I just think if her attendance is going to be discussed and called out as a problem, then we should at least, be able to have those records as part of the as part of the exhibits. But then at the same time, we should also have the records of all the other commissioners as well.
We are more than willing to provide those records at a later time for your consideration.
Is there a way that you can provide them to us during this meeting, her records along with the records of all the other commissioners, so we can compare attendance across the board?
Not right now, not instantaneously, unfortunately.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some questions of my own. I'd like to know for the record that Councilman Thomas and Councilman Green have joined the meeting. Was anyone injured at this meeting? Physically injured?
No,
Was anyone killed at this meeting?
no,
Was anyone arrested at this meeting?
no,
Was there any property damage? Was a chair thrown through a window? Was a car vandalized?
no.
Okay, then I'm going to begin by saying comparing your meeting to January 6th is the most offensive and silly thing I've ever heard. January 6th, which was an attack on the democracy of the United States of America, people lost their lives. People were injured. People were arrested. The Capitol was vandalized and half destroyed. You do not get to invoke January 6th when you have disruptive meetings. We have disruptive meetings in this chamber all the time. All the time. We have people regularly in the audience who threaten council members on pretty much a regular basis. Part of public service is that by offering yourself up or putting yourself in the public's eye, you also invite their ire. That's part of the job. And to say that because people were uncomfortable, our staff gets harassed on a regular basis by our constituents in ways that are not appropriate. But we don't go and say, come to our meetings and go, man, January 6th was last Thursday. Like, it's just not something you get to do. So I want to begin by saying, I get that was meant to be evocative, but I will tell you personally, and I think that many people who watch this hearing are going to find that highly offensive. You cannot equivocate those things. I'll start with a couple of things. The first is, I understand that the allegations of misconduct are really tied to behavior. And I guess my question is, to follow up on Councilmember Jeruso and Councilman Moreno's points, is where is behavior policed in the manual? Is there language in the manual regarding how a commissioner should behave?
The manual speaks generally to support and advocacy for the agency for which the board member is serving.
Well, I guess to Councilman Moreno's point, the whole idea, from my perspective, of having a HANO board with tenant advocates is they are there on behalf of tenants to advocate. And using your interpretation, if a tenant's position is contrary to the board's position, that tenant advocate, based upon the definition you just gave, their fiduciary responsibility to support the board would override their ability to be a tenant advocate. You really can't serve two masters. And I guess the issue is, I draw a distinct line between being a proper fiduciary agent as far as allocating the appropriate resources of an agency and supporting all of the agency's policies. I think as Councilman Moreno said, as council members, we regularly disagree with each other, but that does not undermine our ability to be council members. And to be even more specific to your instance, many of us have served on a variety of boards in which we have publicly advocated against the board's position. That does not immediately disqualify us from being on the board. I would argue that in many instances, being a board member, especially when you're not the president of a board, but you have a policy disagreement, advocating the position that you feel is correct is actually honoring the oath you were given, because you have a fundamental disagreement with the way the board is operating. But to their points they've said previously, that we have no manual in front of us to track whether or not behavior can be a violation. I want to speak about this last line we had in December 7th letter, where it says, one resident present apologized to the board after it became apparent to him that you, meaning Ms. Jasper, misled residents as to the purpose of the meeting and that his concerns were not on the agenda. However, your testimony today said that before that person could complete that statement, he was interrupted by the residents. So which was it? Did he say on the record that Ms. Jasper sent him?
He did.
He did.
He did.
Okay. Is that individual present today?
No, he is not.
Did you reach out to find that individual to have him present today?
No, we did not.
When people make comments before the board of HANO, are they under oath?
No, they're not.
Okay, so there is no evidence you're presenting today and no documents he presented to substantiate a comment he made not under oath at a hearing.
I don't have any evidence to substantiate, but I'm telling you that what he said.
I get you're telling me that's what he said, but we could walk out this meeting and I could say, you said something. And also in that moment, say what your intent is. I think part of the challenge we have here today, and I'll say generally speaking about kind of, there seems to be a narrative that Ms. Jasper fermented a riot. That's what we call it. It's a riot. It was a riot. The challenge I'm having right now is that when I asked those first questions regarding the January 6th allusion, what you had was a disruptive meeting.
Very disruptive.
That's, I'll say it seems like a very disruptive, uncomfortable meeting. But moreover, you haven't presented us with any tangible evidence other than people. You haven't sent us with an email. You haven't shown us with a letter, and you don't have a witness today from that crowd that says, Miss Jasper told me to come to this meeting, correct?
I think you will get it in the comments. I mean, we only have 15 minutes to speak,
So,
But-
so you have witnesses in the gallery who
not in
were,
the gallery, but they can comment online.
there is no online comments.
Okay.
So there are no online comments, so you don't have anyone present who was a disruptive person in the meeting to say that Miss Jasper told them to come.
No,
Okay. Couple of final questions before I get to Mr. Thomas. I know that there continues to be references to this chain. And from our last hearing to this hearing, it vacillates between being a weapon of intimidation and a prop. And it seems today that it's being more referenced as a prop that was seen to incite or get the crowd riled up. But it seems today your position is it was a prop to kind of allude to the fact that the tenants were trapped in jail and she was trying to break them free by breaking the chains or something like that, right?
a metaphor to what she actually did, that has been on.
Okay, but at this point today, no one's intimating on your behalf or has produced evidence that it was a weapon or intended to be used as a weapon.
It could be. It's
Well,
large as that
this
chain
pen I'm holding right now could be a weapon if I want to stab you with it. But what I'm saying is that she take that chain and actually swing it at a person or threaten to harm anyone with that chain.
Well, can I say something, Councilman?
Unless you're answering my question.
Yes, I'm gonna try to answer your question.
Oh,
We
okay.
did have some staff members who were intimidated by her pulling up the chain, and they were fearful that that she was going to dislodge that.
I understand, but did she approach those staff members and threaten to hit them with said chain?
No, but they ducked because they thought that she was going to do something inappropriate with that chain.
Okay, so to my original question, did Miss Jasper threaten to injure anyone with said chain? Yes or no?
She did not say that.
Okay,
But her
did Miss
actions-
Jasper approach anyone with said chain in a threatening manner and specifically tell them, I'm gonna hit you with this chain?
No, but when she raised the chain, the staff indicated that they were fearful and they thought that she.
Madam,
didn't know what
you
she was
can't,
going to
Miss
do.
Jasper is in the audience. You cannot speak towards her intent on her behalf. She'll speak towards her own intent. As I said, I could take this pencil and aggressively be writing and stabbing it into the paper, and someone could say, man, JP is really hot today. I better not go near him while he's stabbing with that pen. He might jab me. That's not reasonable, but for the person who feels threatened or upset, it could be reasonable to them, but we're not using the standard of how a person felt about the situation. It seems like you had a very disruptive, contentious meeting, but what I will tell you is we're in a city full of very frustrated people, and many of them have a right to be frustrated, whether it be with us, frustrated with Hanno. Because people are frustrated and disruptive does not criminalize their frustration or behavior or allow people to infer that because they're upset or frustrated, that is suddenly involves the criminality. That goes back to my point where you repeatedly compared your disruptive meeting to January 6th, which I can't even get back into that. I may have some other questions. I'm going to take a moment. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, President Morrell. You know, we hear again, well, the first action that was taken by the council and the reinstatement was because of process. And so I want to deal with the process and following the rules portion of it. Is it my understanding that you guys had to send Ms. Jasper a letter which stated the reasons or the reasons why she would be dismissed? She had to be notified.
Yes.
Correct. That letter came from the mayor.
Okay, and she was notified. Here we're talking about behavior since I've walked in, and I apologize for being late. I was at a prayer breakfast this morning with Councilmember Green. Was dismissal discussed or outlined in the letter from either the authority or the mayor? Basically saying behavior was a reason for dismissal.
I believe so. Yes.
It was outlined in the mayor.
Yes.
Did the letter state in terms of training? Because one of the things on boards you hoped that you would have a board retreat where folk would understand what the board rules, what Robert rules of all are, the governance of the board. Did the dismissal have anything to do with training or ethics training or governance of the board? Was that stated?
Not specifically.
Okay, so what were the reasons outlined in the letter, especially since the process wasn't followed correctly the last time? What was outlined this time?
Her failure to uphold her fiduciary duties of care, loyalty.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, her failure to uphold her fiduciary duties of care and loyalty. And those were outlined in her fiduciary duty of obedience.
Okay, that didn't say anything towards behavior though, or poor attendance. Or is poor attendance covered in one of the things you just stated?
Not specifically.
Okay. Okay, poor attendance is a reason, but it's not this, it's not covered in what you just said. In the reasons.
I would think it would go to her duty of care, council member, to, as a board member, to make sure that she is present for the meetings and actively participating as a commissioner.
Okay, Attorney Turner, there's your understanding, or some lawyer, if it's highlighted as a reason, if it's not specifically mentioned, and we're dealing with process again, because we're back here because of process. If it's not stated, is it your understanding that it's covered?
It's my understanding that it's covered, Councilmember Thomas, and I think before you came in, I believe it was either Ms. Hester or Ms. Johnson that stated that there was a retreat. So I believe there is some training for the Board of Commissioners. In that training, they are taught and told what they are supposed to do and how they're supposed to act. So I do believe that attendance and the way that Ms. Jasper conducted herself at meetings was a lack of fiduciary duty and a duty of care.
And for me, that's important because you guys are hearing, you have this hearing before us. And for us to make a determination, if it's not clearly stated or outlined, then we would be violating the rules, not guessing, but being sure that that policy and that procedure is covered in the reasons for dismissal. So in order for us to make a determination, I think that's what happened last time, is that because the process wasn't followed correctly, we made a determination that we thought followed the law and followed Ms. Jasper's rights and followed the rights of the board. So I would hope that maybe, I know we have some brilliant attorneys here, if they could answer me that question so I could feel comfortable, because right now there's some ambiguity there. And it's a matter of interpretation. And I don't think this should be a matter of interpretation. I think it should be a matter of the law and public policy, for me anyway, especially since governance and process has been a question. Thank you.
And Councilmember Thomas, I will say this particular time that the procedure and the process was followed. Ms. Jasper did receive a letter from the mayor via email, certified mail, and regular mail on December 7th, outlining the reasons why it was Haino's position that Ms. Jasper should continue to be removed from the board. Prior to that, in order to even start that process, because according to the statute, the only person that can remove a commissioner, and that's throughout the state of Louisiana, is the appointing authority must do it. So the Haino representatives did follow that procedure, sent the mayor a detailed letter on November 29th, outlining the reasons that Ms. Jasper should be removed. And so that is what triggered the letter from the mayor. As you know, she's not a member of the Board of Commissioners. She knows nothing about the day-to-day operations, but what the mayor did was simply follow the procedure. When the Haino Board of Commissioners and Ms. Hester spoke with the mayor, and this wasn't one time, I believe that, like they stated, the impetus was that October meeting. Prior to the information that I received is that Ms. Jasper routinely lacked her fiduciary duties and duty of care. But I believe it was just that October meeting where they decided, okay, this is enough. So you have your October meeting, You have discussions with the mayor about this commissioner's behavior. We have the letter, the November 29th letter from the board president. Thereafter, you have that December 9th letter from the mayor. And then you all set a hearing or a meeting to listen to the evidence and let these fine people present what they have before you. So the procedure, the statutory procedure has been followed.
That, Councilmember Thomas?
Yeah.
To answer your question, so as you know, this is a quasi judicial hearing. And so evidentiary standards are not really set. I will tell you that I think your point does go to an underlying issue of fundamental fairness. It is not referenced in the mayor's December 7th letter about excessive absenteeism. It is a point that's being made today. And as Councilmember Moreno and Councilmember Druso previously stated, we weren't even presented as part of the evidence of her excessive absenteeism, nor the evidence of other board members' presence or absenteeism as a point of comparison. So I think the issue is that when we have these hearings, and why we have these hearings in this scenario is that you want both sides to be prepared to respond to a question. And if the issue had been brought in the letter regarding excessive absenteeism, you'd want to give the other side the opportunity to present counter evidence. That is not included in the letter, and it's brought up today. That to answer your question. All right, a couple of quick things. The first is, as a tenant advocate, if a tenant gives or complains to Ms. Jasper information and they want her to act upon it, but they do not want her to engage with Hano employees, is it her responsibility to circumvent that tenant's wishes?
Well, I would not understand how she could handle it if she does not get the Hano staff involved
Well,
or.
I
the
can tell you,
management.
as a former board member and council member, there are times where people say, I want you to bring this up at a meeting. They don't, a tenant who fears retaliation, and I will be very candid, we have heard throughout our period in this council and previous councils have heard about retaliation from landlords and properties, particularly Section 8 or subsidized properties. And I think, I don't see Max Crudello or those guys here today, but they advocate constantly about tenants are afraid of being evicted or punished for speaking out. Isn't it plausible that you could have tenants who say, can you bring this issue up and not cite me because I don't want to be retaliated against?
I've never heard that.
Okay,
I've
well, I
never
think
heard that.
I'll cease that. I've got a procedural question that's very important. The impetus for Miss Jasper to be removed was a letter sent from Hano to the mayor requesting her removal, correct?
That is correct.
And according to Louisiana Revised Statute 4537, two of the provisions that all board members are required to comply with. One, I want to cite 1.3 in particular, non-compliance with legal requirements can be considered a neglect of duty, correct?
Right.
And the second two is misconduct in office is closely related to the neglect of duty, but involves a direct violation of a governing legal standard, correct? Am I incorrect, Ms. Lombard? Ms. Turner, sorry. I have a friend named Donisha Lombard, and I always do that. I apologize, Ms. Turner. Okay,
Yes,
I want to
go
read
ahead.
to you a provision of our charter. It's section 9-106, prohibited activities of board members. Any member of a board who shall qualify as a candidate or for any public elective office, or who shall accept a appointed office or position of public employment for which compensation is paid by the city of New Orleans shall forfeit membership on the board. I know that Ms. Turner is familiar with that. The question I have for you is, do you have a board member that is a city employee? Yes or no? Do you have a board member that's a city employee?
Yes.
Okay. it would appear that having a city employee on a board is a direct violation of the city charter. Has the board ever asked the city of New Orleans, the city attorney's office, or the Louisiana Attorney General for an opinion showing how a city employee in obvious conflict with the city charter can serve on your board? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so if you have someone served on your board who is not compliant with legal requirements and who presence on your board is a direct violation of governing legal standard, why haven't you asked the mayor to remove them from your board?
President Morrell, we're not here to talk about an employee that works with the city of New Orleans. We're here because we have a behavioral issue that's impeding the board's ability to provide affordable housing for the citizens of New Orleans. As you well know, we are in a crisis in the city of New Orleans with affordable housing. So the issue at hand is we're not talking about a city employee. We are directly related to Sharon Jasper.
Okay, two quick things. One, I appreciate you keep referencing Ms. Jasper's behavior. What I would continue to point to you in here is that when you look at the legal principles for lawful ground of removal, behavior is not in here. Behavior is not in here. It is violation of the law, of governing laws and governing requirements resolving around that. But what more importantly, the reason why I asked that question is there is obviously from the communication that we've received from both you and the mayor referencing her reasons for removing Ms. Jasper is that the board and the staff members do not like Ms. Jasper.
Has nothing to do with that. That is
If you look,
absolutely incorrect.
I can read you quotes from your letters talking about how disruptive you found her presence, how she's not working collaboratively enough with you. And the reason why I cited that example of that other instance is what this council can and will consider is selective application of the law. If someone is in violation of a law or a governing standard being on your board, you have to apply that even-handedly. And if you do not apply it even-handedly, I think it's important for us to take notice that your hands are not clean. If there is someone who is a disruptive person who doesn't get along to go along and you want them off the board because of their behavior, which you've referenced Ms. Jasper's behavior, and to be clear, I'm not on your board. I mean, she might be the most disruptive person on earth, but having disruptive behavior doesn't seem to be covered in these legal standards. But what it is evident from the December 7th letter, as well as from the November 29th letter, is repeated comments about this further riled up members of the public who came to speak by setting up an us versus them mentality. The anger turned to physical objection. Ms. Jasper remained quiet while staff attendees reacted with fear. Like this us versus them, the staff and the board versus Ms. Jasper, you could see why. I appreciate that your staff felt the need and the board felt the need to say, we want board members who comply with the law. It is no secret you have a public employee on your board. It is also no secret that is a significant potential legal quandary. What I brought this up because it's not like this is a hidden problem. It is an obvious problem that the board has willfully ignored. And it is important for us to consider if you've got two people with potential problems and one who's disruptive, you move for their removal, but one who is not disruptive, you kind of turned a blind eye to. I think that's something that this council should consider. Ms. Moreno, Council Vice President, she has her button pressed. There she is. Okay, you're waving.
Council member, if I could just add, and I appreciate your position
Mhm.
and I understand why you're making it, but I just would like to reiterate again that we are here about Commissioner Jasper and her behavior and her impacts on this board's ability to get the work done. That's simply why we're here today. And we appreciate your position on other commissioners. We weren't prepared to discuss other commissioners. It's about the impact of Sharon Jasper on this board.
Well, I would I hear your point. I'll concede that point, but I certainly would think that now that this matter has been brought to your attention during a public meeting, that you would look into it. That being said, the board is clear, so if you don't mind, if you guys could go and let our opponents come up for their 15 minutes, at which point afterwards we will allow 15 minutes of public comment before the council makes their ruling.
And again, thank you, Councilmember Morrell. I just wanted to make clear for the record that Hano is not a city board governed by our charter. I just wanted to make that clear for the record, but thank you again.
Thank you.
President Morrell, we does have something that says a commissioner of a local housing authority may be removed for neglect of duty, misconduct in office, or conviction of any felony. I think that falls under misconduct in office. It does say that regarding a housing authority. We do have that.
It does say that, and we referenced that repeatedly, but thank
We
you
are-
for your comments. Appreciate it. Ms. Jasper, come on down. Now, to be clear, and I just want to make everyone cognizant of the rules. Ms. Jasper's gonna have her 15 minutes with her support individuals. If you speak during her 15 minutes, you cannot speak during public comment. So if you are a speaker right now in support of Ms. Jasper in her 15-minute period, you don't get 2 bites at the apple. So just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Same with anybody, any Hano staff that provided testimony directly today at the table cannot present again. If the people that want to present during public comment, they can, as long as they weren't at the table previously. Thank you. Ms. Jasper, whenever you're ready, start the clock when Ms. Jasper begins her testimony.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm gonna wait on you. Y'all ready?
No.
For clarification, if I could, I was to understand that both parties are under oath with this presentation. Is that correct? Thank you. The reason I brought that out is I have the entire meeting from October 25th, 2022 on my computer. The gentleman that was referenced speaks on here, and none of what they have represented is true. And if you would like to review it, I'd be happy to let you review it.
I think the best way to handle that would be if you could send us the clip of that particular person's comments, the full unedited clip. If someone came before us and misrepresented under oath what was said in a clear and definitive way, the council will address that later. But I think for purpose of your time today, that might not be a great use of your time making your argument, but thank you for that.
Thank you. One other housekeeping matter, if I may. Ms. Jasper petitioned the council for relief from this hearing primarily because of the home rule charter. And within the home rule charter, there is a provision that section 8620, I believe, that stipulates the fact that once city council makes a decision through a vote, the aggrieving party can only come back to change that decision through going through civil district court. My concern is that however this council rules today could very well be disrupted by the mayor issuing another termination letter, which would spark this whole process to happen again. And I don't want that to go on.
I understand your position. You've made the council previously aware of this position. I think from the council's perspective, since we never got to the point last time of considering the underlying facts of the case and that they were dismissed on procedural grounds, that for lack of a better term, because this is not a legal proceeding, but for lack of better terms, because it was dismissed before we went to trial, it was not double jeopardy in the council's perspective. However, today we are discussing the underlying merits, and I think we will take that into account if they try to appeal whatever the outcome is today.
I have submitted the appeal from termination of Ms. Jasper from the Board of Commissioners for Housing Authority. I'm sorry, Ms. Jasper has submitted this signed to you with her rebuttal to this. And I mean, after listening to the mayor and Hanno, generally I can say is that we disagree with everything that they have said. Within my written response, it shows through various laws and regulations that they were incorrect. They didn't have a legal stance for their position in their actions. And I'm saying that what they did was out of line with the law as it is stated through the Home Rule Charter, through the state of Louisiana, and through the federal government of this country. I would point out quickly that HUD funds Hanno, and for that money that they receive, Hanno has to operate under their jurisdiction and under their laws and policies. They have not followed those. I have outlined them in the response. And actually, this proceedings should be found in favor of Ms. Jasper, and we should be able to call it a day.
I think it's still probably best in the time allotted. You know, some of the key points that
Yes.
have been brought up.
Yes.
I think that you're aware of the fact that they are arguments that have been made about neglect of duty and misconduct in office. You understand what their basis is for those. I think it's best that you give some opportunity to address them. Also, as the clock ticks down, you've got 10.5 minutes. I think you might want to allocate some time to Ms. Jasper or daughter to present their testimony. But I think with the time that is currently ticking down, there needs to be something said.
Alrighty,
Ma'am,
the
not
scope of
appropriate.
evidence.
it's not appropriate. You've had your 15 minutes. Go ahead.
The scope of evidence provided by Ms. Hester, CEO, Ms. Carol Johnson, President of the Board, Mr. William Webb, Director of Asset Management, Mr. Jedediah Jackson, Director of Client Services, Ms. Nisa LeBeau, Director of Housing Choice Voucher Program, Ms. Guyana Jordan, Department of Development of Modernization, and Latoya Cantrell, Mayor of New Orleans, all confirmed based upon the legal qualifications of the three charges against Ms. Jasper, that Ms. Jasper was not infringed upon any legal statutes that has caused the dismissal or termination for her post as commissioner. We cite U.S. Code 42, Section 3531, Congressional Declaration of Purpose, as well as the statutes that cover the Louisiana law, which invokes power over Hano. We are saying that the actions against Ms. Jasper are a method of operating a conspiracy to create Hano or continue Hano as a rubber stamping agency that the board, the CEO, and the mayor have total control over, and will deny residents their due rights and liberties under both the Louisiana and the United States Constitution. In here is the
WC, I want to make you aware, you have 8 minutes left. If Ms.
Thank you.
Jasper and
I
her
would
daughter
like
want
to-
to speak,
I would like to
I would
let-
really encourage you, let them speak right now versus during public comment, because Ms. Jasper is the person who is cited
Ms.
in this.
Jasper.
There you go.
Thank you. 17 years, 18, I have been fighting hard for justice for the residents of this city, equality, to be treated like human beings, working with people from all over. I'm gonna make this short so Kawana Jasper can speak. But for me to sit here, I prayed and asked for God to give me an humble spirit for years, and for me to hear them say the things that they're saying about me, it's hard. It's hard. And I never missed a meeting. I was at different developments, working with people all over the city. The work I have done will speak for itself. And the things I've said and done for the people and residents of the city. Kawana speak.
Great morning, honorable council members and those that are in attendance. Why are we here today? I asked that question because it will be 4 months on the 29th of this month, March of 2023, that this council unanimously voted to reinstate Ms. Jasper to her rightful seat on the Board of Commissioners for the City of New Orleans as a resident leader, a resilient, fearless, and dedicated resident leader at that. This council unanimous adjudication due to lack of evidence supporting the terminations request by Mayor Cantrell. Mayor Cantrell sent Hano administration via a city attorney on her behalf. Mayor Cantrell knew that was not legal. The city attorney knew that was not legal, but he had to play his position and try it anyway. Upon the invitation, upon continuation, the city attorney came with nothing but hearsay, fabrication, and lies. Members of Hano administration also came with very similar fabricated stories, lies, and defamed Ms. Jasper character as well as mine. But now you have more of Hano employees coming out of nowhere with all these bogus complaints. These same employees that I witnessed with my own 2 eyes have met with Ms. Jasper in various meeting settings, whether it was one-on-one or as a collective, represent a specific committee for a certain board. Some have greeted Ms. Jasper with a handshake, a hug, pat on the back, and how she's doing so well after Ms. Jasper defeated COVID-19 in 2020 after overcoming a very near grave condition. Even at that point in Ms. Jasper's life, Ms. Jasper was placed on a BiPAP machine. Ms. Jasper was still advocating for housing clients and trying to assist them in any way she can from her cell phone until she was placed on a ventilator for 2.5 months. Various Hano employees called me daily, sending well wishes and their prayers. Some sitting right here in these chambers as we speak. They were happy to see her return and healthy and still making progress. It's very clear to the eyes and ears that these are false, trumped up accusation and a conspiracy by Hano's executive director, the board of the commission president. That's all clear. I understand some people have responsibilities and they do things to protect that without hard thought. But just what they're trying to protect can be taken away in every aspect. It seems as if only an individual put some hard thought into this, the only individual that put some hard thought into this matter, and that's Gian Jordan. Sometimes doing the right thing can be a very difficult task to do, but you won't have that fear of karma weighing in on you. I tell my kids all the time, I love them too much to do people wrong because I don't want any karma that's meant for me to fall on them. Remember 1 Chronicles 16:22, God said, touch not my anointed. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 2.5 minutes remaining. Would you like to move forward to the council asking questions at this point?
That would be fine.
Okay, turn the clock off. I want to begin by making this a quick housekeeping measure, just so we can have fairness. There have been comments by the proponents. They weren't made aware of these 2 documents before the meeting. Just gonna make that known for the record so that in their original proposal, in their original presentation, they did not address these accusations because they did not have them in advance. So just to be fair, they didn't have these documents in advance. Does any council member have questions at this point in time? Okay, Councilmember Moreno.
Ms. Jasper, did anyone ever come and talk to you about your attendance at meetings or lack of attendance at any meetings or committee meetings?
I'm glad you asked that question. I didn't miss a meeting. I went to other communities. Nobody else went, no other board members. I went to other communities and developments and went to meetings to meet the residents and to hear what was going on in these communities. The only time I missed a meeting was when I was sick. I had a doctor's appointment. I was always there.
But was it ever brought to your attention by any of the other Hano board members or the Hano executive director?
Never, never, never.
Thank you, Ms. Jasper.
One quick question, and I'm sure you probably anticipated because I said it previously. There has been a lot of commentary about how you do not bring all of the issues that residents have to you to staff to fix beforehand. Can you explain why that is, or if there's a rationale for that?
Say that again, sir.
So one of the allegations they have in their letter was that you as a board member have a fiduciary responsibility to take every tenant complaint to staff and to try and get it fixed before you go to a meeting and voice it. I would like you to respond to that as far as what your interactions are like with residents. Do residents tell you to take stuff to staff and you choose not to, or what's the rationale you have for how you deal with tenant complaints as a tenant advocate?
The residents come to me after they go to the Housing Authority of New Orleans, and whatever concerns or needs or situations they are in, they speak to the caseworker, the supervisor, and some of them had even text and email the executive director, and they won't get a return. So I would inform them as president advocate of the Section 8 Resident Council. I would let them know. I say, well, look, on the last Tuesday of every month, they have the Board of Commissioners public meeting where everyone is invited who want to come. And there you may have a chance, the executive director is there, the attorney, and you have the opportunity to discuss whatever situation concerns a need you may be going through, and let them know what you are going through, that you tried to contact the administration at Hanover.
So just for clarification, your position is when tenants come to you, they've pretty much exhausted their interactions with the Hanover Authority.
Some of them was on the verge of losing their voucher. Some of them homeless, some of them vouchers have been taken away. It's a lot. You see, when you're sitting on the outside, but see, when I was on the outside, I always, listen. But see, being on the inside is unbelievable. The things, if you could hear what some of these residents are going through.
Okay, well, I don't see any other questions, so thank y'all for your presentation. Next, I think I've got a slew of public comment. And what I will do is I will alternate between in support or in opposition. I think some people might have mixed up what support and opposition is, so I'll try and get clarification as you come up. Mr. Mahdi, it says you're in support, but are you, from your comments, are you in support of Ms. Jasper or removal? Then hold on a second then. Okay, so I'm moving to other pile. All right. In fact, I think all of these, let's see, let's see who's in a support of removal. I don't see. Okay. Hold on 1 second. All right, I was gonna do back and forth, but I don't see any person. All right, come on back up, Mr. Mahdi, because I think the people who hit support and oppose had it for a variety of different reasons. So let's just go through. We're just gonna go through the list because it's not clear from the piles who's what. So go ahead.
Yeah, George Mahdi, Neighborhood Unity and Merge. How long will this travesty of injustice go on? Who are they supposed to serve? The real estate interests of the people? We've been going through this since Katrina. You ended public housing, restricted affordable housing. You even put curbs on public input. That's the goal of the white real estate interests who are trying to re-gentrify this city and push the people to the margin. It seems you want to create problems for the victims instead of solving them. So when you complain about crime, homelessness, and guns and violence and murder, look at the process. That's why the trouble is at your door. If you expect change, you have to solve the problems of the people. Ms. Jasper's position as tenant liaison was achieved by contracted engagement. In other words, we had to fight to create that position for her. That's why the people were upset. Their needs are not being served. Their problems are not being addressed. It's static. We have no movement on public housing, 10,000 people on the waiting list, so forth. So that's why the people are upset, because it's clear to them that the gentrification of white engineered is a political, white engineered gentrification is a political power play. And that's why they're upset. So that's why we are fighting. That's why we come to these meetings and try to get those needs recognized and met, because it's the people that suffer. And that's why we support Ms. Jasper. Yeah, we're gonna have tensions, we're gonna have problems. But we have to fight this by the means necessary
Mr. Mahdi, it's your time.
provided for us.
I
So
appreciate
thank you.
All right, Ms. Sessa, you already spoke, so I'm gonna skip over you. Diane T. Alexander. Oh, already spoke. Okay. William Webb.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just two quick points. I'm Director of Asset Management for the Housing Authority of New Orleans. Just a couple of points that I would like to present to you all in reference to this hearing. The first is myself and another colleague had individual meetings with Ms. Jasper in an effort to keep any disruption down from the board meetings, meaning that we would try to meet and resolve any issues that she may have gotten wind of or that we may have heard as it relates to any resident concerns. During those meetings, Ms. Jasper basically said, hey, it doesn't matter what you guys say, I'm going to take this to the board. And, again, it's counterproductive for what we were trying to do and trying to resolve the tenants' concerns in a timely manner. The second item that I wanted to state to the board, to you all, is the fact that during the October meeting, there were several Hanover staff who did have to be escorted to their vehicles in tears by our Hanover police as a result of the hostility, the anger, everything that was said toward them. And, it was just really sad situation. So I did want to bring those points up to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jedediah Jackson. Members, I know we only allocated 15 minutes for public comment. We do not have many cards. If I could have your indulgence, I'd rather just let everybody speak since they came down here today.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Good morning, members of the council. My name is Jedediah Jackson, and I am the Director of Client Services for the Housing Authority of New Orleans, located at 4100 Touro Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70122. I'm here on behalf of the agency to describe instances where Ms. Jasper, in her role as a Hanover Commissioner, did not abide by her duty of care to the agency, its staff, and the residents we serve. In a personal capacity, I know Ms. Jasper to be a God-fearing person and a long-standing advocate in the community. However, in Ms. Jasper's capacity as a Hanover Commissioner, there have been instances that occurred which I have been involved in, which add some credence to today's proceedings. Sometime in 2022, after Hanover resumed in-person meetings, Ms. Jasper began inviting residents with asset management and voucher issues to board meetings to air their grievances. Ms. Jasper in those same meetings claimed without facts that the agency board and staff were failing to serve residents. This practice led to confusion and in some cases chaos at board meetings due to the board and staff being unfamiliar with the matters that were being presented and residents invited by Ms. Jasper under the impression that their grievances could be resolved during the meeting. In an attempt to become aware of, look into, and address resident concerns that Ms. Jasper was aware of prior to board meetings, Ms. Hester directed myself and Mr. Webb to begin meeting with Ms. Jasper prior to board meetings, and Ms. Jasper agreed to meet with us. We held 3 meetings to get information and resolve the resident issues. And 2 of those meetings held the Friday before the Tuesday, August 30, 2022 board meeting and the Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 board meeting. We were able to address some concerns that Ms. Jasper communicated. We were making progress and the tenor of the meeting started to improve. But during the 3rd scheduled meeting held the Friday before the October 25th meeting, Ms. Jasper outright refused to provide resident concerns that she was aware of to Mr. Webb and I. And the Tuesday, October 25th, 2022 meeting reverted back to the tone of former meetings and unfortunately devolved into the meeting that we're discussing today. And on a final note, I was the staff member at the podium during the meeting when Ms. Jasper pulled out a steel link chain as a prop and waved it in my face to elicit a reaction from the crowd attending the meeting, many of which were attending at her request.
Please wrap up. Your time is up.
Can I just finish?
Let's wrap up. That's why.
Okay, yeah.
Give me up to.
I've been working in various capacities within local government since 2008, and I've never experienced a display such as that from a former member of the body sitting on the dais of any council or board addressing the people's business. That concludes my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Green would like to ask you a question.
Semantics and words are important. You said, and I need to know, just for the record, you said Ms. Jasper waved the chain in your face.
I was
That
standing at
happened?
the podium.
Because that wasn't even brought up by the members of the authority. So how far were you away? And then what do you mean by waved it in your face?
Being.
Waved it in your face,
I guess
as
as
a
a
serious
guesstimate-
expression.
Yeah, no, as a guesstimate, maybe 8, 10 feet, maybe. I'm just guesstimating. I'm sorry. Did that answer the question?
Well, it did. I mean, I think that people would know where I'm going with that question. Waving in your face from 8 feet away. The expression, I wish that you hadn't used that expression because it confuses the matter if you would, because that waving in your face is me with my hand near my face where you feel that it's going to be a threat to you. I do regret that you use that expression if that's not the case. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Edward Parker. Edward Parker.
Why'd you say that?
Good morning. Edward Parker, member of United Front, 7802 Henley, New Orleans, Louisiana. This shows, thank you, Council, democracy can work. Both sides have been able to give their sides, and I'm sure that you elected officials surely see which side is correct, is right, and that this lady is one of the greatest people that we have as far as advocacy in this city. Ms. Jasper, thank you for what you've done and for what you're doing. Please, Council, let's keep Ms. Jasper doing the work that she has done so well. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorraine Washington.
Lorraine Washington, and I just want to state that I
Washington, pull the mic closer. We can't hear you.
just want to state that I am in support of reinstatement of Ms. Jasper, and I cannot support retaliation.
Thank you. Eloise Williams. Okay, ladies room, I'll come back to her. Nidra Poindexter.
Just want to say I'm here to support the reinstatement of Ms. Jasper. This is my first meeting, and some of the things that I've heard, I'm just in disbelief of how they claiming that Ms. Jasper has not served the citizens. If it wasn't for Ms. Jasper, I would still be homeless. I was homeless for 73 days and living in my car. I worked with Hano staff for 3 months to get a voucher. 3 months, still hadn't been handed a voucher. Got in touch with Ms. Jasper, explained my problem. In less than an hour, I was handed a voucher to move forward. So this lady needs to be here to represent us. By the time we get to Ms. Jasper, we are exhausted with what we shouldn't have to go through at Housing Authority. So all this tension that I'm hearing that y'all get in these meetings, it's not tension, it's overwhelming of the people of being homeless. They're not listening to us. They're not following what they supposed to follow, because I shouldn't even have to call Ms. Jasper. I should have been notified of all the things that I went through to be living in my car with a 14-year-old son for 73 days. Thanks to Ms. Jasper, I've been placed in a home. I signed the lease on March 1st, something that I had tried to do since September. And you saying she's the problem? She's not. Reinstate this lady, put her back. She's here for us. She took care of something that I couldn't take care of with housing in 3 months. It was done less than an hour with Ms. Jasper.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, you're back. Eloise Williams. Oh, nope, she's not back yet. All right, so Valerie Jean-Marie.
Is it even or morning? Good morning. First time speaking. Oh, good morning. My name is Ms. Valerie Jean-Marie. First time speaking. Everything these people sit up there and say was a lie. I'm the lady that got kicked out the meeting. Let me state for the record, I never met Ms. Jasper. I never called Ms. Jasper. I never reached out to Ms. Jasper. October the 25th, 2022, I came to that meeting because I was frustrated because I contact every last one of these. Never got a return phone call. I sent pictures stating how I was living with rats, roaches and all that. Like how I'm talking to y'all, Yvette Hester got mad. She turned her head. So when she turned her head, I raised my voice and say, look at me while I'm talking to you. That's when Carol Johnson got mad and sent that security guard right there. It scolded me out the meeting. Now the violence was towards me, none of them. I threatened no one. I got the pictures to show how I was living with rats, roaches, lizards, and everything else. All these people did was just lie. I never called that lady. I never reached out to that lady. October 25th, my first time ever being in Ms. Jasper's presence. Now, you know what? Right now today, I'm homeless. I'm from Philadelphia Post because of these people right here refuse to listen to my concerns and my issue. I had to get a legal aid lawyer to come to the house to see the holes and the rats and the roaches, how I was living in order to get the repairs done. Now, because I did that, the slum landlord refused to reinstate my lease. So that's why right now today, I'm homeless. I'm from Philadelphia Post. All these people do is lie. That's all they ever did was lie. The violence was towards me. That security guard right there. Even outside, he was manhandling me. And I kept saying, leave me alone, leave me alone. No, he wasn't doing it. He just kept on manhandling me. They lied. But I'm homeless. I'm from Philadelphia Post because of them right there. Enough is enough. Why did I have to go get a legal aid lawyer to get these repairs done? And if you look at the video, all I was trying to do is show them how the house was made. Because if the inspector came to the house, she would have saw that living room cracked window. If she'd have came in the house, she'd have saw all the broken windows in the hole.
Thank you, Ms. Jean-Marie. We receive your testimony. I appreciate you being here today.
All right, thank y'all so much. And reinstate Ms. Jack.
All right. Miss Eloise Williams, come on down. Take your time, please. We're not going anywhere.
Thank you. Good to see all of you. Even those up there, I haven't seen them. But I'm Miss Eloise Williams. My address is at 3300 Dickens Drive, but I can't live there since Katrina. I'm living in an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment. I always say, what crime has I committed? They tell me that's what they do with young men when they, oh, excuse me, y'all, I've been here. I'm very ill, but I gotta be here because my house at 3300 Dickens Drive is falling apart. Y'all know it. How many times have I been here? How many times I've been here to y'all? No, I know y'all don't like me because I say what I say. And I mean what I say. I want my house. 3300 Dickens Drive belong to me. I want it. I'm tired living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Wheelchairs, toilet and everything around me. I can't move. I had to get here today. I've been trying to get here. I done had 3 issues of hospital because of the way I'm living, the way these selfish ass people making me live. Anybody that know me better. I want to be here for duration. but I want to be here in a proper way, not no any kind of way. And I'm here today to talk about Miss Jasper, because she been standing with me. She's sick herself, and I'm sick. But she been there right there with me. And I know she mean good to the world, because I sat with y'all. Don't not come. Don't not come. Answer me. Y'all dirty. Y'all a bunch of dog asses. Ain't got no business in nothing concerning a human being in their rights. Y'all dirty. And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I bought all my house documents today. I thought I would be able to pull out and see. That's my home. I want my home. I don't want to be in no apartment complex, a one-bedroom apartment complex. I ain't never had to live like that. I just made 84 years old on the 11th of February. At this age, you think I want to live any kind of way? No, it ain't for me. And I ain't gonna change it. And y'all better know I ain't gonna, because the next time I ain't gonna be so quiet. Because y'all dirty ass women. Dirty ass women, I don't know. I'm not a woman feeling. But y'all ain't got no feeling, but not even stuff. So I'm going with that, y'all. I'm going with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eloise. Ms. Ford. Kim Ford, you're up next. After Ms. Ford, we have D. Collins after Ms. Ford.
Greetings, Council. My name is Kim Ford, and I was raised at the Sabredon Housing Project as a public housing tenant. And then my mother had the audacity to get employment with the Housing Authority, to which she retired from. And she was also able, because of that employment, she was able to move into a Section 8 unit and eventually became a homeowner. But it was a very difficult process. But watching her do that housing advocacy, because we talked a little bit about housing advocacy in the testimony here today. And through all of that, I started being active with housing again after Hurricane Katrina, because I saw so many citizens from New Orleans that were struggling with HUD to be able to find affordable housing. So upon returning back to New Orleans, I petitioned the Housing Authority to be contracted as a Section 8 tenant liaison. In that role, I was successful in being trained as a Section 8 housing counselor and a Section 8 housing advocacy, so that Section 8 tenants could use their vouchers towards becoming homeowners. So I started working with the program to try to help that to take place, because if something had been in process like that, then my mother would have been able to find a house and own property without having to sneak and scope and just go under the radar like she did, because actually HUD has made provisions for that to happen. But then when I see the Housing Authority, so I had to end up leaving the Housing Authority because they felt like they didn't need a tenant liaison, especially who knew the rights of Section 8 tenants, housing choice voucher participants, to which I helped many receive their Section 8 vouchers back instead of having them terminated. So, and now I advocate for tenants all across the country with Section 8 and affordable housing.
Ms. Ford, can you wrap up?
Okay, I'm
Thank
sorry. I'm sorry to take so long, guys, but the Housing Authority, I have tried to work with them in many areas and on many cases, because if we go, and I'm going to invite the council to come with me to some of these fly-by-night hotels along Old Gentilly Road, to how many Section 8 tenants we have with vouchers that's paying week to week and trying to live inside of these hotels so they could go and take a bath while holding a Section 8 voucher. And then to see the
commissioners come here and attack Ms. Jasper, who has a long and storied past before many of them even attended a housing authority meeting. Because, and you, some of you are brand new as well, because I remember after Katrina, all we had to do with the Housing Authority of New Orleans. This housing authority has a sordid record. And before anything is considered what they saying here today, we need to go and look at their history. Because there was a Section 8, the same gentleman who was in this position that the big tall guy was saying about how he's the client services. That same guy, Mr. Muhammad, was also getting a 6-figure salary and living in a Section 8 house. And I remember when HUD went in there, the FBI went in there and brought him out in handcuffs. I remember when
Ms. Ford, can you wrap up so I can get everybody else?
I remember when the chief of their hiring, their personnel director, out in handcuffs. We got to do better as a community, as a council, and as leadership here to stop attacking the citizens in this community. It's time out for that. And yeah, we support Ms. Jasper. I'm Kim Ford. I'm the New Orleans chapter co-chair of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And handle all the citizens, the Black citizens in this community, some act right. And what they're doing here today shows that they have no intent on doing that. And before I let you take out Ms. Jasper, Ms. Hester, I swear for God in front of this whole community, I will see you lose that job and go out, take up now another job at any housing authority. And if you willing to risk that up here behind this foolishness,
Ms. Ford,
you're gonna lose.
Ms. Ford, you're over time. Thank you. Miss D Collins, and after D Collins, Ricky Peterson. Miss Ford, thank you. Thank you, Miss Ford. All right.
Good morning.
Okay.
Name is Denise.
Thank you, Miss Ford. Miss
Collins, yes. I am here in support of Ms. Jasper. I don't know Ms. Jasper. Never met Ms. Jasper until October 25th, when I attended,
just try and keep the mic close. There you go.
when I attended the Section 8 meeting.
I know it seems awkward, but like get right on top of that mic because we can't hear you. You talk a little low.
Okay, all right. I attended a meeting at the Housing Authority on October 25th with Ms. Jean Marie. I was not going to attend the meeting, but my daughter couldn't attend the meeting because she was going through a situation Ms. Jean Marie is going through with the slum landlords and the housing and the conditions which they were living in. So Ms. Jean Marie was frustrated when she attended, when we went into the meeting. But during our entries of the meeting, we signed the cards to place to speak, make comments. Before we even made comments, Ms. Jasper made a comment stating exactly how the participants and the residents on the program were feeling. Frustrated. For years, they've been talking about making repairs and doing better for the residents. And over all the years that she's been there, it's not been done. I'm 55 years old. All the years I've been here, it hasn't been done. So I don't see any good coming from that end now to get up and say that someone who want to help you is causing problems. On that particular day, when we did speak, we finally got up to make the comments. Ms. Jasper did raise up the chain and state that if she felt like we were being imprisoned, and in some ways, I felt exactly what she was saying. So in other words, the audience was in agreement with what Ms. Jasper was saying, and the board wasn't pleased with that. They didn't like the fact that Ms. Jasper said what she said, and we all applauded to her. When Ms. Jean Marie did get up to make a comment, they wasn't paying attention to her. They were on their phones, they were talking to each other, they were eating candy, they were texting and, doing all this. So she did shout out, "Look at me. Listen to what I'm saying. You listen to all your employees, your coworkers get up and speak. You laughed and you smiled and you clown with them. But when she got up to speak, no one was paying her any attention. She made a gesture to show them the back of where her house is, and that was in the same position where these two ladies were sitting. This lady, I don't remember names, but she kind of looked over to the wall where the security guard was standing. He left the wall and came and approached Miss Jean Marie. He went to put his hands to her and she asked him, "Don't touch me." Miss Jasper's daughter guided Miss Jean Marie to the front. She's in front of Miss Jean Marie, guiding her out. The security guard is in back. I came in and I stood in between where he was and Miss Jean Marie. Now, they asked her to leave. She's leaving. So I'm asking him, "Don't touch me. Don't put your hands on me." Y'all asking her to leave and she's leaving. They escorted her out. They had pretty much said what I wanted to say. So I thought there was no need for me to come up and make a comment, but I did. And I asked the comment then, and I'm asking the comment now. When a tenant is reporting repairs need to be made in a house that they have to stay in for over a year and deal with the lead, the mold, the mildew, the holes, why is the landlord still getting paid? I don't understand, and I'd like somebody to answer that question for me, please. Thank you.
Sorry, after Mr. Gary, we have Cheryl Elaine Valerie, and that's the last speakers. So you and one more speaker, and then we're done.
A lot of points have been covered. I'm Gary Ballier, 2260 Industry Street. As a kid, lived in public housing in St. Bernard for a bit. Later on in my adult life, I had some dealings with Section 8 through my father, who in the 70s, and myself up until Hurricane Katrina. So I'm familiar with Section 8, the whole process. I'm also familiar with good advocacy. Ms. Jasper is a hell of an advocate for the people. What I see here, it's almost a witch hunt by people who are more concerned with decorum and order than the least of us. We have people here that are fighting somebody that's being an advocate for the least of us. And if the housing problem in New Orleans is existing and it's as bad as people say it is, I live in the 7th Ward. If you don't know about some of the bad housing and the bad landlords, take a walk in the neighborhood and I'll introduce you to some. You seem to be fighting more for the developers, people with the money, and the landlords than you do the tenants. Okay. You're gonna try to ostracize a lady that's obviously fighting instead of trying to work with them. You may want to put her in charge of you guys so you can understand how to help people. Because you have been on trying to hurt them. It's not right. I don't know you. I know Ms. Jackson through these situations and a friend of mine that's here. The city council should learn a lesson from this today. People like Ms. Jasper, find a way to put her in charge of this housing crisis that we have in this city. It's not right. Queen is 85 years old and she's begging for a decent home. Where do you live? Section 8 housing, 1-bedroom apartment. Again, I'm trying not to take it personal. I have a soft spot for babies and my elderly people. Anybody else that's able-bodied could fend for themselves. You all seem to be fairly able-bodied.
Mr. Ballier, could you wrap up, please? You get a chance. Thank you.
Again, obviously I'm in support of Ms. Jasper being reinstated. And I appeal to the council, find a way to get Ms. Jasper in charge of something that helps people in need of housing.
All right, Cheryl Elaine Valerie. There you go. And after Ms. Valerie, we have Mr. Batiste, and that's the last speaker.
Hello, good morning. How you guys doing? My name is Cheryl Elaine Valerie. I'm a senior. My birthday is March 11 when COVID started. That was a great birthday present. I'm here on behalf of myself and my best friend, Kim Jones. Kim Jones, who's diabetic. She's homeless again. Ms. Hester been helping her. Last time I came to housing, I came in and they told me, asked me what I was there for. I said, I came to see where I was on the waiting list. I'm also with Unity. And everywhere Unity brought me, out of my community in my neighborhood, according to my doctor, I need a 2-bedroom and someone to be there in case I need someone, because I would have a heart attack. I will never know I had it. I'll just drop dead, which is a good thing. I won't even feel the pain. But my problem is housing, slumlords. Miss Nadine Lewis Griffith was a judge. She wanted more rent. Unity was paying their portion and I was paying mine. I have documentations on everything. They took me to court. I lost. She said I didn't pay my rent. Unity paid their portion. I paid my portion. But there's a lot of slumlords out there. The last one I went to before I got homeless, Mr. Henderson on Hamilton, on Eagle and Forshey. He told me I had to get a gas meter. I didn't know I had to get a gas meter. It's still there. So I have my energy bill. I have to go to energy and see about my gas meter. There's a lot of slumlords out there. I got photos of mold and mildew in the house. The air condition leaked. Everything was going on. The doors didn't lock. The windows didn't do right. Nothing was right. And there's too many of these slumlords, and y'all need to crack down on these landlords who's taking our money and housing and Unity's money and everybody else's money. And I'm at Carlton Hollygrove Senior Citizen Center. My birthday is the day that March 11th when COVID started, and y'all gonna remember that birthday. I'll be 7 years old. Zero has no place value.
Thank you, Mr. Batiste.
Good good evening, council. How y'all doing? I heard a lot here, but let me tell you, Miss Jasper, I know. When I was a little boy with Jerome, we went and found Miss Jasper. This lady has been fighting for the 60 standing. And for them to get here and talk about this lady with the January the 6th riot, something wrong with them. Why they running handle exaggerating? But hold up, y'all know Noonie got something dramatic. Just Vappy, let's talk about Vappy. Vappy signed the sheet to go to the mayor to get rid of Miss Jasper when he's an illegal board member. But the worst part is, council, and I want y'all, I'm going to be watching. I want y'all to investigate them from not doing their job, neglecting their duty, letting Vappy, who stole taxpayers' money, supposed to be on the street as a NOPD, and he's in roll call. Hey, I'm here on hand on time. But it's sad what they did to Miss Jasper. They tried to lynch her. They tried to put their feet on her neck. And they sat there, and I'm sitting there, and while I'm upset, these 3 women was laughing while Miss Eloise was crying about housing. It's a disgrace. It's a shame. And council, y'all got a charge today. Y'all want to know what y'all charge is? The recall the handle board.
Thank you. That concludes all the public comment. What I will do now is if council members so choose, they'll have opportunity to make a final comment before we go to a vote. Mr. Druso, I believe, wants to make a comment.
Thank you, President Morrell. I think our charge here today, as you set forth, is to apply the law. The law says for removal of commissioners under 4357(1), that a commissioner of a local housing authority may be removed for neglect of duty, misconduct in office, or conviction of a felony. The last one is not applied to the facts of this case. Upon direct questioning, Hanno admitted that has not provided any law in support of their case, whether that is case law or AG opinions. Upon additional questioning, Hanno also conceded that they have not relied on any policies or procedures either into evidence other than the ones that they have stated that were allegedly violated by Ms. Jasper. Those have not been provided to us as part of this record. Moreover, the attendance records of Ms. Jasper have not been provided either. It seems to me then that Hanno has not met its burden of proof as a result of that, and that Ms. Jasper should be returned to the board. On a common sense finding, I would offer 2 other things. Number one, by directly injecting attendance into this affair, and part 1 of the reasons for violating the 3 fiduciary duties, Hanno says, participation in governance by attending board meetings, you've opened the door to review of all members of Hanno for failing to attend their meetings. And now we're going to have to get the information about how that works for everybody else. We didn't inject that. Hannah did. Last, I would also say, as a lawyer and as somebody who somewhat has to act in a judicial legislative capacity, I appreciate good advocacy. I like it. Comparing a meeting that happened to January 6th is gilding the lily. And that is the most polite thing I can say. We had an assault on our nation's capital where people came in and tried to disrupt an election. You had people who committed suicide, officers afterwards who were hurt on that. And I just think that's a bridge too far to compare what happened on January 6th to this board meeting. So with that said, Mr. President, I just don't see, given what has been asked, what has been provided, I appreciate everybody's comment today, how Hano has met its burden of proof. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Moreno.
Yes, thank you. I've been having conversations with our legal team, along with my staff, because I've been, really wanting to inspect Hano records. Unfortunately, what we found is that Hano is actually in violation of state law, revised statutes 40-512, which calls for, and I'm just going to read it, a local housing authority shall also file an annual report with the municipal or parish clerk or equivalent official whose duties include receipt and custody of public records of the municipality or parish promptly upon completion thereof. Regional and consolidated housing, and then it talks about other stuff. But bottom line, talking to our council attorneys along with the CAO, we do not have any of these annual reports. Now, that's a major violation of state law. But I guess the bigger piece here is these records would have been able to show us attendance and what's happening with the different board members. So this is something that I think urgently needs to be corrected, and we'll take a look at how many years back we haven't received these reports. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. There are no further comments at this time. I believe it's appropriate for the council, someone to make a motion as to far as what they would like to do. I will entertain a motion from anyone up here.
I'll make a motion to reinstate Ms. Jasper.
Thank you. Mr. Jeruso makes a motion to reinstate, to which Mr. King seconds. Councilman, please vote your machines. 7 yeas, no nays. Ms. Jasper is reinstated to the board. Another item, investigation on the agenda. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance today. We have one other item on the agenda. Once we get through that item, we will be closing the meeting. So the next item on the agenda, it is agenda item number 3, is resolution number R2385. I believe my staff has some documents to hand out. All right, they've already been handed out. So resolution R2385 is in regards to commencing an investigation into written communication direct to Orleans Parish residents commissioned by the Mayor's Office of Communications entitled the New Orleans 2022 Recap, mailed out to residents in January and February of 2023. I want to give y'all a little bit of background on how we came to this point and why an investigation is necessary. Initially, after receiving concerns from residents regarding this mailer, the city council and my role as president, we sent 2 communications to the CAO's office. The first was a list of questions, and those communications, as well as the responses, are in your possession right now, where we simply asked questions as to how those mailers were generated and what was the process for doing so, because as you know, mailers are public expenditures and there is tremendous state law governing how those go. The response was not sent by the CEO, but by the communications department. And honestly, the response in particular, that the mailer was targeted at active voters in the democratic process, created more questions than answers. A second letter was sent to communications as we were instructed to communicate with them. And we similarly received not answers to our questions, other than the fact that the postage and the individuals that were selected for the mail, that those were selected by the mail house and not by the Office of Communications. That was very puzzling to those who received that response, because as you know, if you've dealt with mail houses, they don't arbitrarily mail to people because postage costs money. So that was very concerning. At the behest of those responses, the council, myself and Councilmember Jeruso sent a letter to the mail house saying, please turn over the public communications regarding this use of public money. The mail house sent us a one-sentence response saying, you'll have to subpoena that. So the reason why we're here today is that the only ability the council has to subpoena documents is when an investigation is opened. So since M-Press Printing has declined to turn over what should be a public document, they're a public vendor paid with public money, we have to open an investigation to subpoena them because they have indicated they will not provide that documentation without a subpoena. Hence why we're here today, and hence why we have resolution number R20-85. I see no council comment, but we do have a comment from the board. Okay, Mr. Peterson waves. As such, I will move, unless there's any council comment, I will move to open the investigation. Seconded by Councilmember Moreno. Please vote your machines. Machines open. Motion. All right. 7 yeas, no nays. The investigation is opened. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Moreno moves. Councilmember Thomas seconds. Any opposed to adjourning? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Great job. Great job, City Council. I appreciate y'all of this. Green, you got him. You got him with the chains. I like that mathematic problem.